The letter arrived on a rainy afternoon, slipped through the slot with a dull thud. At first I thought it was just another bill. But when I saw the name printed on the envelope, Mr. Collins, attorney at law, my heart skipped. Inside, the words were short, almost urgent. "Helen, call me immediately. It's about Daniel." I froze. My grandson. The boy I had welcomed into my home. What could possibly be so terrible that my lawyer had to warn me in writing? I didn't know then that this letter would tear apart everything I believed about family. Before I go on, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? A quiet town like mine or a big city far away? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to know. And if stories like this touch your heart, please subscribe so you won't miss what happens next. It had been 3 years since my husband Richard passed. The house felt too big without him. Every chair too empty, every room echoing with memories. At 69, I moved slower, thought longer, and often wondered if the silence would swallow me whole. Then came Daniel. He called one evening, his voice warm, almost rehearsed. "Grandma, you shouldn't be alone anymore. Let me come stay with you. I can help around the house, keep you company." I nearly cried from relief. My only grandson offering care when I needed it most. Of course I said yes. When Daniel arrived, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, it felt like the sun broke through the clouds. "Grandma," he said, hugging me tight, "you don't know how much I've missed you." In the weeks that followed, the house came alive again. He carried groceries, fixed the squeaky stair Richard always promised to repair, even made me tea in the evenings. For the first time in years, laughter returned to the halls. "Richard would be so proud," I whispered one night as I looked at our wedding photo. "Our grandson is here. We're not alone anymore." But little things unsettled me. Daniel asked about the cost of utilities, how much Social Security I received each month, whether Richard had left life insurance. He brushed it off as just planning ahead, but his eyes lingered too long on the numbers. Once I caught him rifling through Richard's desk drawers. He laughed it away, claiming he was looking for stamps. I told myself not to doubt him. He was family. Blood. Surely he only wanted to help. One Sunday after church, Mrs. Jenkins pulled me aside. "You're lucky, Helen. Not many young men would take time to look after their grandmother. He's a good boy." I smiled, but something inside me whispered otherwise. Because the night before I had overheard Daniel on the phone. His voice was low, urgent. "Yes, she trusts me. No, she doesn't suspect a thing." When he noticed me in the doorway, he hung up quickly, smiling too wide. "Just a friend, Grandma," he said. "Nothing important." But the way he avoided my eyes told me it was everything. So I wanted to believe. I needed to believe. Daniel was all I had left. So when the letter from Mr. Collins came, warning me to call him immediately about my grandson, my hands trembled. What could Daniel have done? What secret was waiting to be uncovered? I didn't know the answer yet. But I would soon. And it would break me. The morning after I received the letter, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the phone. My coffee had gone cold, untouched. The envelope from Mr. Collins lay beside me, its words echoing in my mind. "Call me immediately. It's about Daniel." Finally, with trembling hands, I dialed his number. "Collins and Associates," came the receptionist's voice. "This is Helen Turner," I whispered. "Mr. Collins asked me to call. It's urgent." Moments later, the familiar deep voice came on the line. "Helen, thank God you called. Are you alone?" I glanced down the hall. Daniel was still asleep, his door closed. "Yes." "Good. Then listen carefully." Mr. Collins had been our family lawyer for decades. He handled Richard's pension, our mortgage, even our wills. I trusted him. And now the tone of his voice chilled me. "Last week," he began, "I was contacted by a notary's office. They had paperwork, property transfer forms, listing you as the seller and Daniel as the new owner of your home." My chest tightened. "That's impossible. I never signed anything. That's why I wrote to you. Helen, the signatures look like yours, but they aren't. Someone has been forging your name." The room spun. "Daniel." There was a pause. "I can't say for certain yet. But his name is on every document. And whoever submitted them has already scheduled an appointment to finalize the transfer next week." I clutched the phone so tightly my knuckles whitened. "He's my grandson. Richard's grandson. He couldn't." "Helen," Collins said gently, "I know this is painful. But I've seen this before. Family members who look caring on the outside, but inside they see opportunity. You need to be careful. Tears stung my eyes. What do I do? First, don't confront him. Not yet. He might deny it or worse, push you harder. We need evidence. I'll request copies of everything. If he tries to get you to sign anything, don't. Call me immediately. Do you understand? Yes, I whispered. My voice shook, but a small fire flickered in my chest. When I hung up, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. My gaze drifted to the family photos on the mantel. There was Daniel at age 7 holding a fishing rod with Richard. There he was at 16, all lanky arms and shy smiles. How could that boy be capable of this? Footsteps creaked behind me. I turned quickly, sliding the letter into my pocket. Daniel yawned, rubbing his eyes. Morning, Grandma. You're up early. I forced a smile. Couldn't sleep. He poured himself a glass of juice, leaning casually against the counter. I was thinking, it might be smart to put some of the house paperwork in my name. Just in case something happens to you. The words pierced like a knife. Don't worry, he added quickly, noticing my silence. It's just to make things easier. No rush. He kissed my cheek and sauntered off, as if he hadn't just confirmed everything Mr. Collins warned me about. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Richard's photo sat on the nightstand, his steady gaze seeming to ask, "What will you do now, Helen?" I whispered into the dark, "I don't know. But I can't lose this house. Not like this." Sleep never came. Because deep down I already knew, my grandson wasn't here to save me. He was here to take everything. For the next few days I moved through the house like a shadow. Every sound, every glance from Daniel felt heavier, loaded with meaning I hadn't noticed before. He still called me Grandma with that charming smile. He still carried groceries and brought me tea in the evenings. But now I noticed the way his eyes wandered, lingering on the framed photos, the jewelry box on my dresser, the stack of bills on the counter. And every time I thought of Mr. Collins's warning, my stomach knotted tighter. On Wednesday evening I walked past Daniel's room. The door was slightly ajar and his voice carried low and sharp. "Yeah, the house is practically mine already. He trusts me too much. All I need is one signature." Silence. Then his voice again, lower. "No, she doesn't suspect anything. Relax. By next week it'll be done." My heart stopped. I pressed a hand to the wall, steadying myself. But then the floor creaked under my weight. The door opened wider and Daniel's eyes met mine. "Grandma." His smile was quick, too quick. "Were you listening?" I forced a shaky laugh. "Just passing by. I thought I heard you on the phone." He shrugged. "Oh, just a buddy from college. Talking about a business deal." But his hand gripped the phone too tightly and I knew. He was lying. That night I couldn't sleep. I slipped into Richard's study, flicking on the desk lamp. The drawers were neat, too neat. Papers stacked in ways I hadn't left them. I opened one folder and froze. Inside were documents. Copies of my will, our mortgage papers, even insurance forms. All pulled neatly together like someone had been preparing them for a meeting. And on one page I saw my own name, my signature. But I had never signed it. The ink looked wrong. The slant of the letters was close, but not mine. Daniel had been practicing. The next morning I tried to act normal. I made oatmeal, poured coffee, smiled when Daniel walked in. He stretched, yawning. "Morning, Grandma. Sleep well." I stirred my oatmeal slowly. As well as I could. He sat down, pulling his phone from his pocket. "So, I've been talking to some people. They think the market's great right now. You'd make a fortune if you sold this place." I forced a laugh. "This isn't just a house, Daniel. It's my home. Your grandfather and I built our life here." His smile faltered just for a moment. "Of course, Grandma. I'm just saying, it's smart to plan ahead." But when he lifted his cup, his eyes slid away, cold and calculating. Later that day I called Mr. Collins from the back porch, my voice low. "He's talking about selling." And I found papers, copies of my will, insurance, even my signature forged. Mr. Collins sighed heavily. "Helen, we need proof he's behind this. If you can record him. Don't put yourself in danger, but if he pushes you to sign, let him talk. I'll handle the rest." I nodded, though my hands trembled. "I'll try." That evening, Daniel surprised me with flowers. "For you, Grandma," he said, placing them on the table. I know I've been pushy, but I just want to take care of you. I smiled faintly, the recorder Mr. Collins had given me tucked in my pocket, its light blinking red. Because for the first time I wasn't just Helen Turner, the grieving widow. I was a grandmother preparing to fight for her life, her home, and the truth. 2 days later, I heard the sound of men's voices in the living room. At first, I thought Daniel had friends over. But when I stepped into the hallway, my heart sank. 2 strangers in polished shoes were walking through my house, clipboards in hand. They peered at the crown molding, tapped on the walls, even measured the windows. Daniel beamed when he saw me. Grandma, these gentlemen are just here to take a look around. Real estate appraisers. Totally harmless. One of the men smiled politely. Lovely property, ma'am. Houses like this don't come on the market often. My stomach tightened. Appraisers? Why? Daniel laughed too quickly. Just planning ahead. No decisions yet. But it doesn't hurt to know what the place is worth. The men jotted down numbers as if I weren't even standing there. When they left, I turned to Daniel, my hands shaking. This is my home, Daniel. Not yours to parade around. He sighed as though I were a stubborn child. Grandma, you can't live here forever. This house is too much for you. Don't you want something smaller, easier? I drew myself up. I want the life I built with your grandfather. That's what I want. His smile vanished, replaced with something colder. One way or another, Grandma, this house is mine. You'll see. I felt my blood run cold, but I pressed the recorder in my pocket, its tiny red light blinking. Every word was being captured. That evening I called Mr. Collins. My voice shook as I played back the recording. You'll sign sooner or later. One way or another, this house is mine. Daniel's voice filled the line, cruel and certain. Collins's reply was grim. That's coercion, Helen. You've got him on tape. But don't stop. The more we gather, the stronger the case. Keep acting normal. Don't let him know you're on to him. I nodded, though tears streamed down my face. I don't know how much longer I can pretend. You're stronger than you think, Collins said gently. Just hold on a little longer. The next morning, Daniel came into the kitchen carrying a manila folder. He set it on the table with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Grandma, I've been patient, but it's time to get some things in order. These papers will make everything easier for you. No more worrying about bills or banks, I'll handle it all. My hands shook as I opened the folder. There it was again, a quitclaim deed, my name at the top, his name below. I can't sign this, I said softly. Daniel's smile hardened. You can and you will. If you don't, Grandma, I'll have no choice but to move you somewhere safer. A nursing home, maybe. You don't want that, do you? My chest tightened, but I pressed the recorder in my pocket. I'll think about it, I whispered. He leaned closer, his breath hot against my cheek. Don't think too long. That night, I sat alone in the darkened living room, the recorder clutched in my hand. Richard's photo stared back at me from the mantel. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered to the empty house. But I won't let him erase everything we built. I promise you that. The little red light blinked again, steady as a heartbeat. And I knew deep down the fight was just beginning. The following morning, Daniel was already waiting by the kitchen table when I came downstairs. A neat stack of papers lay in front of him, and his expression was sharper than I'd ever seen. Grandma, he said smoothly, we have an appointment today. 2 o'clock. With a notary downtown. My chest tightened. A notary? For what? He tapped the folder. Just formalities. Paperwork we've already discussed. It's time to stop delaying. I forced a smile, though my hands trembled as I poured coffee. Daniel, things like this take time. I need to think. His eyes narrowed. You've had enough time. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. After he left to shower, I slipped into the back porch and dialed Mr. Collins. He wants to take me to a notary today, I whispered. He's pushing harder than ever. Collins's voice was urgent. Good. This is exactly what we need. Go with him, but don't sign. Whatever happens, stall. I'll have officers nearby. The moment he tries to force your hand, we'll act. My heart pounded. What if he gets suspicious? Play along, Collins said firmly. Pretend you're uncertain but willing. That will draw him out. Helen, I know this is terrifying, but you're not alone. I clutched the phone tighter. All right. I'll do it. When Daniel came back downstairs in his pressed shirt and polished shoes, he looked more like a businessman than the boy who once ate popsicles on my porch steps. "You'll thank me for this, Grandma," he said, slipping the folder into his briefcase. "You'll finally be free of all this responsibility." I smiled faintly. "I suppose you're right." My stomach churned. But the recorder in my purse blinked softly, steady as my resolve. The drive to town was quiet except for Daniel's humming. He tapped the wheel, glancing at me with a grin. "You'll see," he said. "Once this is done, you'll never have to worry again." I looked out the window, whispering so softly he couldn't hear, "That's what I'm afraid of." Before 2 o'clock, we walked into a tidy office with brass letters on the door. Notary Public Real Estate Services. The receptionist greeted us warmly. "Mr. Parker, good to see you again." My blood ran cold. He'd already been here, preparing everything. Daniel guided me to a chair. "Just a few signatures, Grandma. Easy as pie." The notary slid the papers across the desk. Right on top, the quitclaim deed, my name already typed, Daniel's name beneath. "Sign here, Mrs. Turner," she said, tapping the page. My hand shook as I picked up the pen. Daniel leaned close, whispering, "Do it. Don't make a scene." I lowered the pen, staring at the page. "Daniel, I don't know if this is right." His smile stiffened. "It's right. Trust me." The notary looked between us, politely silent. My voice quivered. "What if I change my mind later?" "You won't," Daniel hissed. His hand pressed firmly against mine, forcing the pen closer to the paper. "Sign it." And that's when the office door opened. "Mrs. Turner, stop." Mr. Collins strode in, flanked by 2 officers. His voice was firm, commanding. "Do not sign anything." Daniel shot to his feet, fury flashing in his eyes. "What is this? You can't just barge in." Collins dropped a folder on the desk. "Evidence. Recordings of you coercing your grandmother. Documents with forged signatures." "It's over, Daniel." The officers moved forward. "Sir, you'll need to come with us." Daniel's mask cracked. "You can't do this. She needs me. She asked me to take care of everything." I stood, my hands trembling but my voice clear. "No, Daniel. I asked for family. I asked for love. You gave me betrayal." His face twisted, and as the officers took him by the arms, his final words rang out. "You'll regret this, Grandma. You'll regret it." They led him away, his threats echoing through the office. The courthouse smelled faintly of dust and floor polish, its marble walls echoing with footsteps. I sat on the hard wooden bench, clutching my handbag in my lap, my heart pounding like a drum. Across the aisle, Daniel sat beside his attorney, his suit too stiff, his eyes avoiding mine. For a fleeting second I saw the boy who used to chase fireflies in my backyard. But then I remembered his hand forcing mine toward the deed, his voice hissing, "Sign it." "Case of State versus Daniel Parker," the bailiff called. The judge entered and the trial began. The prosecutor laid out the evidence piece by piece. Exhibit A, forged documents with my shaky, imitated signature. Exhibit B, the audio recordings, Daniel's own voice, cold and certain, "One way or another, this house is mine." Exhibit C, testimony from the notary who confirmed Daniel had visited her office multiple times, preparing the paperwork without my knowledge. Each revelation struck me like a hammer blow. When it was my turn to testify, I rose slowly, leaning on the rail for balance. My voice trembled as I told the court about the night Daniel first moved in, about the warmth and relief I felt at not being alone. "I believed he came out of love," I whispered. "But it wasn't love. It was greed. He wanted the only thing I had left of my husband, our home." I caught Daniel's eyes then. For a moment something flickered, shame maybe or regret. But just as quickly his jaw tightened and he looked away. The defense tried to paint him as overwhelmed, a misguided young man under financial stress. "He never meant to hurt his grandmother," his lawyer argued. "He only wanted to protect her assets." But the recordings betrayed him. The forged papers betrayed him. His own arrogance betrayed him. When the jury returned, their verdict was clear: guilty of attempted fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. The judge's voice rang out, "Daniel Parker, you are hereby sentenced to 5 years in state prison." The words felt heavy, final. Daniel's head snapped toward me, eyes blazing. "You did this, Grandma. You ruined me. Tears stung my eyes, but my voice was steady. No, Daniel. You ruined yourself. The bailiffs led him away, his footsteps echoing through the chamber until the doors closed behind him. Afterward, Mr. Collins walked me outside into the cool afternoon air. It's over, he said gently. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign. Yes, my home was secure. My name was cleared. But my heart was broken. I sank onto the courthouse steps, clutching my shawl. He was my grandson, Mr. Collins. Richard's grandson. I raised him. I loved him. And now he's gone. Collins's voice softened. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty, Helen. You did what you had to do. I nodded, but the ache inside me didn't ease. That night I returned to the house. The silence was deafening. No footsteps on the stairs, no humming from the kitchen. Just me and the memories. I lit a candle by Richard's photo. The flame flickered, casting shadows on the walls we'd built together. I kept it safe, Richard, I whispered. Our home, our life. But at what cost? My tears blurred the light until the whole room shimmered. Because justice had been served. But my family was broken beyond repair. The courthouse doors closed behind me with a heavy thud, and for a long moment I just stood there on the steps, clutching my shawl around my shoulders. People passed by, lawyers with briefcases, families whispering, reporters chasing other stories. But the world felt muted, as though I were standing inside a glass box. It was over. Daniel had been sentenced. 5 years. My grandson, my flesh and blood, would spend his youth behind prison bars. And though the judge had declared me safe, I had never felt more hollow in my life. Neighbors met me outside, offering pats on the back and murmurs of comfort. You were brave, Helen. You did the right thing. He got what he deserved. I smiled weakly, thanked them with trembling lips. But their words felt like they were spoken from another world, one I no longer belonged to. Because they didn't see the boy I saw. They didn't see Daniel at 7 years old, racing across the yard with fireflies trapped in a jar. Or Daniel at 10 begging me for another slice of pie, his face sticky with jam. Or Daniel at 16 sitting on the porch swing after his father's funeral, his eyes red with tears, asking, "Grandma, will everything be okay?" How do you reconcile that boy with the man in handcuffs who hissed, "You'll regret this, Grandma," as he was dragged away? That night the house was unbearably quiet. I made myself a cup of tea, but it cooled untouched on the table. I turned on the radio, but the music grated against my nerves. Even the tick of the grandfather clock seemed too loud, like a reminder that time was moving forward whether I wanted it to or not. I walked into Richard's study. His photo sat on the desk, the same photo Daniel used to stare at when he was little, asking stories about his grandfather. I stopped him, Richard, I whispered, sinking into the chair. I saved the house. But I lost him. I lost our grandson. Tears slipped down my cheeks, splashing onto the papers I hadn't had the heart to put away. The evidence. The proof of his betrayal. Proof that would follow him into prison. Sleep never came. Instead, I wandered the halls of the house, touching the walls Richard painted, the banister he polished, the quilt my mother left me. This house had survived storms, sickness, loss. But tonight it felt haunted. Not by ghosts, but by love turned sour. By the echo of Daniel's voice calling me Grandma in one breath, then threatening me in the next. Around midnight, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the empty chair Daniel used to occupy at breakfast. My chest ached with a question that had no answer. When did I lose him? Was it when his father died? When the bills piled up? Or was there something in him all along that I never saw? I pressed a hand to my heart, closing my eyes. I had survived Richard's death. I had survived loneliness. Now I would have to survive this. The loss of family, not to death but to betrayal. And somehow that cut even deeper. Before dawn, I lit a candle on the mantel. Its flame flickered against Richard's photo, casting long shadows across the quiet room. "Help me be strong," I whispered into the silence. "Because I don't know if I can carry this alone." The flame burned steady as if answering. But the ache in my chest reminded me. Winning the case was only the beginning. The real battle, the battle to live with the emptiness Daniel left behind, was just beginning. The days after the trial bled together, each one heavy as lead. I rose each morning, made tea, stared out the kitchen window at the garden, and wondered if this was all my life would be now, silence and shadows. But then the phone began to ring. First, it was Mrs. Jenkins from church. "Helen, we missed you last Sunday. Why don't you come back? The quilting circle's starting a new project." Then Mrs. Carter, my old neighbor. "I'm making a roast tomorrow, Helen. You'll come, won't you?" I won't take no for an answer. At first I resisted. My heart wasn't ready. But their voices were kind, insistent, and eventually I gave in. That Sunday I sat in the back pew of the small white church Richard and I had attended for decades. The choir sang, the organ swelled, and for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of peace. After service, Mrs. Jenkins wrapped me in a hug. "See? You're not alone. We're your family too." Her words settled into me, gentle as a hand on my shoulder. Later that week I joined the quilting circle. The women chatted, their fingers busy with needles and thread. I hadn't quilted since Richard died, but as I stitched, memory flowed back. Late nights at the kitchen table, Richard teasing me about how many half-finished projects I had. One of the ladies leaned over and smiled. "Beautiful work, Helen. It's like you never stopped." I smiled faintly, warmth blooming in my chest. For the first time in a long while, my hands weren't just trembling, they were creating. Still at night the loneliness returned. I would lie awake, listening to the tick of the clock, the whisper of the wind against the house. Sometimes I swore I could hear Daniel's laugh, faint and far away, and it cut like a knife. But then I'd remember Mrs. Jenkins's words. "We're your family too." And slowly the ache lessened. One afternoon I wandered into the garden. The roses Richard had planted were blooming, their petals rich with color. I knelt in the soil, breathing in their sweet fragrance. Richard used to call them our little miracles. As I touched a petal I whispered, "I couldn't save Daniel. But I can keep this alive, for both of us." The breeze stirred, carrying the scent of roses through the air, and for the first time in months, I felt my chest loosen. A week later I volunteered at the library. They asked if I'd read to the children during story hour. Nervous I agreed. The kids gathered around, wide-eyed and giggling as I opened a worn copy of Charlotte's Web. As I read, their laughter filled the room, bright and pure. And something inside me healed a little. Because in their faces I saw hope. The kind of hope I thought I'd lost forever. That night back at home I lit a candle by Richard's photo. The flame flickered, steady and warm. "I'm finding my way," I whispered. "It's not easy. But I'm still here. Still living. Still Helen Turner." And for the first time since Daniel's betrayal I believed it. The evening was quiet, the kind of quiet that used to crush me. But now it felt softer, almost like a blanket instead of a weight. I moved slowly through the house, turning off lights, until only the glow of a single lamp lit the living room. On the mantel sat Richard's photo, framed in oak. I picked it up, tracing the lines of his smile with my fingertips. "So much has happened, Richard," I whispered. "More than I ever thought I could bear." I set the photo down and struck a match, lighting a candle. Its flame danced gently, casting long shadows across the familiar walls. I thought of Daniel then. My grandson. The boy who used to hold my hand on walks, who once told me I made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. And I thought of the man he had become. The one who brought appraisers into my home, who pressed my hand to a forged deed, who whispered threats about nursing homes. My heart ached with both memories, the sweet and the bitter tangled together. "I don't know if I can forgive him," I murmured. "But I also don't know if I can hate him. He's still my grandson. He always will be." The candle flickered as if agreeing. I sat down with a pen and paper. The page stayed blank for a long time before I finally wrote, "Dear Daniel, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't even know if I'll ever send it. But I need you to know, despite everything, I still remember the boy you once were. The boy who loved the garden, who cried when his father died, who promised me he'd make me proud. That boy is still in my heart. The man you became broke it, but he didn't erase the child I loved. I hope in the years ahead you find him again. Because if you don't, prison won't be the only cage you live in." Tears blurred the ink, smearing the words. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into Richard's Bible, leaving its fate undecided. Later I stepped out onto the porch. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of roses from the garden. Fireflies flickered in the dark, just as they had when Daniel was small. I closed my eyes, letting the sounds of the night wash over me. The crickets, the distant hum of a car, the steady beat of my own heart. "I'm still here, Richard," I whispered. "Still fighting. Still living. and I'll keep living no matter what comes. Inside, the candle burned steadily. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like the house was haunted. It was still full of memories, painful ones, yes, but also beautiful. Memories of love, laughter, and life. And as I climbed the stairs to bed, I realized something. The betrayal had scarred me, but it hadn't destroyed me. Because I was more than what Daniel tried to take. I was Helen Turner. Wife. Grandmother. Survivor. And tomorrow, when the sun rose, I would begin again. It was a gray morning when the letter arrived. I almost didn't notice it at first. The pile of bills, the church newsletter, a postcard from Mrs. Jenkins's niece. But at the very bottom of the stack, there it was. My name written in familiar, uneven handwriting. Daniel's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. The paper inside was lined, the words scrawled in haste. Dear Grandma, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this. But I needed to write it. Sitting in here, I've had a lot of time to think. About Dad. About you. About what I did. I was angry at the world, angry at losing everything. And I took it out on the only person who still loved me. I told myself I was just being practical, but the truth is I was greedy. I hurt you. I betrayed you. And I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life. If there's any part of you that still remembers the boy I used to be, I hope you'll think of him when you think of me. I'm sorry, Grandma. More sorry than words can say. Daniel. I read the letter once. Then twice. Then a third time, tears blurring the ink. For so long I had begged myself for an answer. How could he do this to me? Why would he betray me? And here in these shaky lines was the answer. Not enough to erase the pain, not enough to undo the damage. But enough to show me he was still human. Still the boy who once cried on my porch swing. I pressed the letter to my chest and whispered, maybe there's hope for you yet, Daniel. That evening I lit a candle beside Richard's photo. The flame flickered gently, illuminating both his smile and the folded letter resting nearby. Do you hear that, Richard? I whispered. He said he's sorry. Maybe prison will change him. Maybe one day he'll come back different. Better. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of the flame steady me. Until then, I'll keep living. I'll keep hoping. Because that's all I can do. Outside, the roses swayed in the evening breeze. Fireflies blinked in the dark, tiny beacons of light against the shadows. And for the first time I felt something stir in my chest. Not just grief, not just survival, but the faint, fragile spark of forgiveness. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. Life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons through the people we love most. I learned that even family can betray you, but also that strength, dignity, and hope can carry you through the darkest nights. If you've ever faced betrayal, loneliness, or loss, I hope my story reminds you. You are stronger than you think, and your life is still worth living. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to find strength after someone close to you let you down? I'd love to hear your story. And if you want to hear more true-to-life dramas like this, stories of family, love, and survival, please subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world, and it ensures you never miss the next story.